The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome back to Up the Cherries. And this is part 2 of a very special cherry picking called Andoni Half Time Report. If you remember and you've seen the last episode, the first episode was all about Andoni's first season at the club and what we achieved. We broke down the season, had a look at it in more detail. And this episode, we're going to be looking at last season, our record-breaking season in the Premier League. And to do that with me, I've got 2 special guests, and you'll remember them from the last show. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll know both faces as well. And to bring in my first guest, and that is Mr. Ollie Hudson. Ollie, good to see you. Welcome back to Cherry Picking and the Andoni Half-Time Report.
Thank you so much, mate. Yeah, super excited for this one, as you're aware, and ready to kick off and get into it, mate.
Yeah, excellent. And of course, as last time, and again joining us is the man from Berlin, Mr. Malcolm Chiverton. Malcolm, welcome back to Cherry Picking, and welcome back to the Andoni Half-Time Report.
Thanks very much for having me back on. Hi, Ollie. Hope you're both well, guys.
Hey, man. Oh, yeah, all good, Mal. All good, mate.
Yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm looking very forward to diving into it. And thank you to you as well, Malcolm, for some of the research you've done to help comply this episode as well. Let's get cracking. Let's not hang about. So, yes, episode 2 then. So this episode is called Breaking Records, Basque-Ing in Bournemouth. So let's get started with it. Let's have a look at the first segment, which is Andoni putting pen to paper. As we know, at the end of, I think it was May of 2024, Andoni signed the contract extension. And at the time, he told the club website that he was very happy to sign the contract. It is a matter of renewing the confidence from both sides. We have a good experience with our first season together in the Premier League, and I am happy that both sides want to continue the relationship further. I'm proud that we achieved the points record. We are playing in difficult competition with very good opposition. The season started slowly, but I think we improved a lot and are playing in the right way. We have to continue improving the team because the level of the Premier League is really high, and I'm looking forward to working with Simon and the rest of the team over the summer to help us do that. I would like to thank the supporters for everything in our first year together. I am thankful that they were supporting us even in the beginning when we were not winning games, and that they have been very helpful to the players for the whole of the year. Now, this one, guys, is, as we know, there's always speculation with Andoni's contract. You know, we're always hearing it, and it's going to be happening until whatever happens. But at the time, he'd only signed the 2-year deal, as he normally does. And obviously, he signed the year extension, which has kept him into this current season. I mean, this, for me, at the time, I thought was sensible from both parties, in fairness. Sensible from the club because, you know, we want to keep Andoni for as long as possible. But also gives Andoni that extra season to go again. I mean, what was your initial thoughts when he did sign his first extension? I mean, let's start with you, Ollie. What was the initial thoughts, after he put the pen to paper to extend by a year?
Buy-in. Ultimately, his first season wasn't the greatest. It wasn't anything to call home about, was it? And I think it all comes down to buy-in. I think we've said in the whole of the first part of this this series that obviously there's a vision here. There's a story being told whenever you bring someone into the club, and I think that's all it comes down to. Andoni was bought in immediately. He's ready for the challenge, and he's ready to attack it. Yeah,
I totally agree. Malcolm, obviously, you don't like all the talk of the contract stuff, but him putting this extra year onto his existing contract at the time, shows a real intent, didn't it, from both parties?
Well, for me, it was a matter of trust and belief in what we're all doing together as the club. So from players right the way through up to the top. I think obviously the first season definitely helped. The stones, ground stones, call them what you like, were laid, and only got what he wanted. And obviously, as a manager, I would think he would need his own visions of where we go next. That must have been talked about, I think, at boardroom level anyway. And that the communication above sort of manager level, that must have been really, really interesting, that they all bought in together.
Yeah.
So yeah, trust and a belief in everything that they're doing would be how I sum it up, really.
Yeah. Well, that obviously gave Andoni that extra time with us, and we're all still fingers crossed that he will sign, and I'm sure he will do.
Oh, he will.
This new deal. Very, very confident, even though we hear all the rumours of this, that, and the other sniffing around. But anyway, back on to this episode, and yes, so following on from Andoni's first season, which must be described as creditable. What could we expect? To see in the season of 2024-25. The first category must be the players. Plenty of incomings and outgoings, loans. How would these affect Andoni's plans moving forward? And we're just going to discuss that now as we take a look at the comings and goings. So the breakdown of some of the transfers, the outgoings, the major outgoings. There were other outgoings as well, but these ones were probably the two of the biggest names that left. Kiefer Moore, probably unsurprising that he moved on at the time. He moved on to Sheffield United for $2 million. And then obviously Dominic Solanke, obviously, who scored all the goals the season prior. He got his big money move to Tottenham for $65 million. Guys, this one, like I say, I think from my perspective, Kiefer Moore, I don't think was really a big surprise. I think he wasn't going to get game time. Chances are he probably would have been loaned out. So a permanent move at the time was probably best for him. Dom at the time, though, was quite a worry from my perspective. There wasn't really any names bashed about. Obviously, we know we signed Evan Nilsson in quite quick time after the transfer of Dom. But what was your initial thoughts on these two players leaving and maybe the impact that it may have on the side? Was it a case of, like I say, Kiefer probably needed the move, but and where would goals come from with Dom leaving? Ollie, was that kind of your trail of thought there, or were you thinking differently at the time?
I mean, hindsight's a fantastic thing, right? Because if I knew what I knew now back then, it's obvious the transition. The first season and then Iraola signing the contract, we've gone from almost survival, so trying to stay up in the Premier League, to substance. We've really kind of built that next level of club and squad, and at the time, I didn't like either of them going. I loved Kiefer Moore. I still love Kiefer Moore. I think he's a fantastic dude. I think he was an awesome player at the time. He had some great appearances for us. And Dominic Solanke was a part of Bournemouth, you know. So at the time, it didn't feel great, and it didn't fill anyone with confidence, I don't think. But so that's why I say hindsight's a fantastic thing, right? Because I think it was necessary to make the money from Solanke. Comes back to the great efforts of the recruitment department, because the money that they've made from there, you know, if we move on a little bit further, the purchases and the money that we continue to make from this one big Solanke signing, it just continues to grow. So, yeah, hindsight's a fantastic thing.
Yeah. No, very, very good points. Malcolm, you know, big hitter in Dom, you know, good player who scored crucial goals in Kiefer. Your initial thoughts from the time of them moving on?
Yeah, with Dom going to Tottenham, it wasn't really a big surprise, was it, that he'd be going? Worried? No. Concerned? No. I thought, well, obviously they're going to get decent money for him, and I'm sure, you know, you've got to have a little bit of trust and belief in the recruitment. Obviously, we didn't know at that time how good the recruitment was. So, you know, you just put your trust in them to basically scout out some good players. But I wasn't over concerned because you know, there are other players that can wade in with goals from time to time, plus getting somebody else in. But at the time we didn't know who it was going to be. So, but I wasn't concerned at all, you know. But obviously, you know, I read all the noise as well and concerns online, what many fans thought, and you know, sort of gloom and doom as quite a lot of Cherries fans are, aren't they? When anything negative comes up, you know, they're a breed unto their own, really. But I wasn't concerned at all. No, you know, the last thing I wanted to say was obviously, you know, both of them leaving. Thanks for what you've done for the club. Good luck in your, you know, future careers. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite spun off for Dom with injuries and whatever, but you know, he'll get back up on board again.
Kiefer Moore's much closer to me now, though. Hey,
I did notice.
Yeah.
He's doing very, very well there, isn't he? At
Wrexham? Really well, yeah. He's done fantastic.
A hat-trick last week. Was it last week?
He did actually watch that against Coventry. Yeah.
And the game before one and the game before a brace. So yeah, he's been fantastic. Yeah, really fantastic.
Yeah, a real journeyman of the game. And I was a big Kiefer Moore fan. I actually got Kiefer's name and squad number on one of my shirts. And he's excellent. And Dom as well. You know, I love Dom. But yeah, interesting to hear your views. I must admit, when Dom went, I was a little bit cautious of what was going to happen, but you know, always trust the process, as they say. Trust the process, trust the recruitment. So on that note, let's take a look at some of the transfers that came in. So Unel was on loan, but completed his permanent deal for £13 million that summer. Alex Paulson was recruited from Wellington Phoenix for £850,000, and then was loaned out to Wellington Phoenix arch rivals in Bill Foley's New Zealand club, Auckland. So we didn't really see much of him that first season, but at £850,000, I think is probably going to be a steal in the future. Daniel Jebison, a highly rated striker from Sheffield United, came in for 1.5 million, had made an impact in the Premier League. I think he is still the Premier League's youngest ever scorer, but guys, do correct me if I'm wrong in a moment on that one. Of course, the man, Dean Housen from Juventus for 12.8 million.
Just to confirm, you are correct. Yes, he is the youngest scorer.
Thank you. Julian Areju comes from Barcelona for 8.5 million. Mexican international right back. And of course, the man to replace the big man up front who scored all the goals, Evan Nilsson, signed for a club record 40.2 million from Porto. And of course, towards the end of the window, we managed to sign Kepa from Chelsea on a season-long loan deal. So that is the transfers, guys, that we made that season. I thought, at the time, a highly successful window turned out to be probably an even more successful window when you look at the money we made back on it during the summer. But Malcolm, initial thoughts on the window? A good set of players signed.
It showed their intent. Obviously, getting Evan Nilsson in from Porto for that money, crikey's, Bournemouth spending 40 million on a player is unheard of, isn't it? As for the others, well, no names stick out. Possibly only, obviously, Kepa, the loan deal. It was just a question of see where they fit in, how they play. Do they fit the system? Yeah, bring them on, give them the chance, and then we can watch them playing, see how they blend in. But obviously, that I think the big question would have been Evan Nilsson. How many goals can he bring in a season? Having, succeeded Dom. So that would have been the question mark. I mean, who would have guessed how Dino turned out? It's obviously, he didn't get the start straight away. But wow. Yeah, a good business for Alex Paulson, for that, that money. I mean, it was very cute signings, and then loan him back out. I mean, this is something that the club have been doing now, isn't it, for a while? Getting players in, loaning them out, giving them their minutes in other clubs so they get match practice. And, yeah. But the rest, I can't really say, that they sort of, give me that wow factor. It was a question of, well, let's wait and see. And the beauty of, I suppose, being Bournemouth, they don't go out and buy players that are well known. They do their scouting, they do it in the background and look for players that other clubs don't look for. So it's always a bit of an unknown quantity when they do come in.
Yeah. Ollie, your initial thoughts at the time?
So initial thoughts, I hate to get so excited every time, but just seeing this list just again opens up a whole different thoughts. At the time, crazy business. I don't know who Evan Nilsson is. I don't know who Dean Howson is. I don't know who Alex Paulson is. I don't know who NSU Nal is. What I do know is I remember a free kick when NSU Nal came on, won us the game. I do know when Evan Nilsson scored a number of goals in his first few stints and then went off injured for a period of time that then really brought Bournemouth together. And it comes back to substance. Look at it. With hindsight, right? What we've done is we've sold Solanke for 65 million. And with that 65 mil, we've got Howson and Evan Nilsson. Right? 3 players. One of those players that we had sold a season later for the 50 million back. That recruitment is utter genius. So, like, if there isn't a full-blown plan to take a club from battling, really battling to try and make a name for themselves, which we were for years, and we've evolved from a team that have been grateful to stay up into a side that's playing really brave front foot football because of these kind of bits of recruitment. I can't help but get excited about it. Especially looking back on it like this, listed out a year on. Bloody hell, chaps. Like, look at where we are now. And I can almost see it developing again. Like, with the squad that we've got now, you can almost see exactly the same thing happening. Just genius. Just absolute genius. Super, super exciting. And, it was almost the start of what none of us knew was going to be the season that really made Bill Foley's plan look like it was happening. You know, like it's crazy. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Exciting window, and I think
super exciting. Yeah,
I think after his loan spell, I think it made sense to buy him. Alex Paulson, for me, I just thought that's definitely your future.
That's going to come back. That's going to come back. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you do sell him on, you're going to develop him to a point where you're going to make a hell of a lot more money than what you sold him for.
Yeah.
So good business either way. Daniel Jebson was one for me that I was a little bit cautious of, because when you read things about players, what other fans say and that, but he come in and I think he's very, very decent. Dino, I'm not too sure actually in terms of Daniel Jefferson how many goals he's got for Preston this season. It's probably something I should have looked up, but this current season now, the season we're in, not the season we're reviewing here, he's actually on loan at Preston. Does anyone know how well he's done? I think I did hear he scored.
Yes, there's 17 in total at Preston so far.
Goals?
Yes, goals.
17 goals at Preston, is he?
Well, it looks like here 17. Oh no, sorry, 2. Apologies. 17 career total. My bad.
Yeah.
2 goals at Preston.
Yeah.
So he's got 2 goals in how many
right.
appearances?
Is...
If not, no worries. But...
12.
12 appearances.
Okay.
2 goals. Okay, wonder how many of those are subs and things like that. So, yeah, that's something that we'll look at a little bit more in detail in the next episode. But just wondered there. So, sorry, guys, going off the track a little bit. Yeah, it was a thought that, a bit cautious about him. Dino, didn't expect, like you say, what happened. And Iraola, I thought was quite exciting when he first come in. And Evan Nilsson, I just bought straight into him. I thought he was fantastic from the off. But
I'll be honest, even if you were trying to be a bit judgmental about this list, looking back on it, right, you'd think out of 7 or 6 players, there'd be one, that didn't really work out or didn't really go well, or that got sold a bit quicker, or isn't playing, didn't score, whatever it is.
Yeah,
there isn't one. Like the one that would be on that list would be because of injuries, or Jebison because he's been loaned out and only scored 2 for Preston. If you compare that to everyone else on the list, but even that's not negative. And you just and that's how perfect that recruitment period was. Like, I just think it's utter football brilliance. It really is. It goes so much further than the game on the pitch.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Let's have a quick look at the pre-season. Obviously, it was the Born in the USA tour, where we had a couple of friendlies in the USA against Wrexham and Arsenal. We also had a behind the closed doors friendly with LA Galaxy as well. I can't remember the scoreline for that one, but I got a funny feeling Philip Billings scored in it, if memory serves me right. But yeah, both the Wrexham and Arsenal game finished in 1-1 draws, and then followed by 2 home friendlies against Andoni's old side, Rayo Vallecano, 1-0 win, and then Girona. Have I pronounced that right? Girona.
Yep, correct. Yeah.
Who I think at the time that season was heading into the Champions League, I think. So,
battling for top 3 position, right?
Yes, yeah. So, guys, never really looked too much into detail of friendlies, but I don't think really we could have taken anything from these friendlies to, with how the season developed and went on. A couple of draws and a couple of wins, not a bad pre-season all in all. It's always good to be unbeaten. But I don't think, at the time, looking forward, I thought that, this pre-season kind of sets up for the season we went on to have. I don't really look into pre-seasons. I mean, I don't know about you, Ollie, Malcolm. Do you look into
can you say the same about this pre-season?
Well, no.
Yeah, it's the same.
Absolutely not. No. So I don't take it. Without sounding rude, I don't take preseason into account for any team. I feel like the matchups are massively incorrect. I feel like if we're going to have training games to get development or foresight on a season, you'd match those games up much more accurately. But it's never the case. So yeah, I'm not bought into preseason.
No, it's all for fitness and game time for me. And what I like to do when I go to the friendlies, I tend to look at what we do differently, maybe to last year, in terms of that could be anything from tactical setups, to personnel. And I like to watch the new boys that come in. I like to see how they do and how they're settling in and what they can bring to the side. So obviously, this season, look at seeing Trefair, for example. Last season it was seeing Iraola and Jefferson and what those players, Dino, what they can bring, and the one thing from seeing both the home games was that the new boys settling in looked very, very exciting, and we're going to add something to the squad. But other than that, there's nothing you can really take from it, is there? But unbeaten, which isn't a bad thing for, I suppose, confidence. But
I think the best sum up that we had was the Liverpool game. I don't think there was any pre-season that could have got our squad or our season ready or given us a much more accurate view than that game. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about a different season. Apologies.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. I mean, and on that note, let's look at the season. I know what you're getting at there.
Yeah.
Ollie, totally, because just a quick breakdown on the first part of the season that we're going to take a look at now. And obviously, there's some decent start there, really. I mean, 2 draws and a win. The win being that epic game against Everton, which we'll look at in a bit more detail. Couple of defeats there to Chelsea and Liverpool, which you could say is no disgrace. And then a key game for me, I haven't highlighted it, but a key game for me was the Southampton game for the like of Evan Nilsson. And I remember saying to my dad and my brother that I could see Evan Nilsson scoring tonight, which he did, and kind of kickstart his season after a period of sort of 5 games where he settled in. A disappointing away game at Leicester, that was disappointing, but then a couple of good wins there, against Arsenal and Manchester City. So obviously our first 3 points over City. But let's go back to the beginning of the season. So going into the start of the season, a couple of draws in the opening 2 fixtures seemed quite decent. But Vard decided to get in on the act during the second game against Newcastle at the Vitality. Dango was adjudged to have handled the ball in what should have been a stoppage time winner. It must be pointed out that the referee had given the goal and there was no complaints from the Newcastle players either. This one is a real frustrating one when you look back on it, guys. I mean, this game I thought was a decent encounter between 2 decent sides. I think on the day, if you take out the incident, you probably would have said a draw would have been fair. But that old VAR props up again. The referee made the right on-field decision for, the referee not to have any confidence in himself and not back his own decision, which they can do. They don't have to go with VAR's decision, do they? They can trust their own judgment, which the referee should have done here. But Malcolm, frustrating one to start the season, possibly 2 points taken off us that, we should have really had the full 3 points on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same old thing with VAR, isn't it? It's changed season by season now. Things get highlighted, incidents in the game get highlighted. We're going to make it better. It's not clear and obvious. You can't give it. Things like this, and you move on. And that same season, and oddly enough, it was Newcastle. I think it was Joe Linton also scored a goal with the ball coming off his arm, and they allowed it. They didn't, so it's very frustrating. It's not just for Bournemouth, but I think for most football fans these days, VAR, I think they get too involved. Is the only way to describe it without, going on and on. But yeah, I mean, that was 2 points definitely taken away from us. What seemed to be quite a decent start, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Ollie, VAR again. I'm pretty certain you would say that that was a goal. I mean, what was your view on the whole scenario over the goal ruling out?
Well, I'm not sure if you chaps remember, but there's been a number of conversations about this game, and I was at that game behind that goal by about 7 rows with my auntie, and I saw it. And more annoyingly for me is I actually had Bournemouth to win, and that goal would have won my bet. And that's why it sticks out so much in my mind, is I was absolutely bloody fuming. I was fuming. And I genuinely couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what was happening. And again, I'm not sure if you recall, but the following week in the Cup, we had West Ham, and VAR wasn't available. And we lost that game because of what was a handball. Whereas this one wasn't. And it was that part of the season where you're like, you couldn't have asked for a more unlucky start, making excuses and this, that, and the other. But no, yeah, I remember the game, and VAR is a force in itself, isn't it? So, I remember being there, and I again vividly remember the Forest game just before. So, all in all, I think I came away from it being quite happy because we had drawn against Forest, drawn against Newcastle.
Yeah.
And I think at the start of the season, at that point, to get 2 points from 2 teams who are currently in form, you can't really complain from. So,
no, totally agree. And if we have a look at probably one of the, best comebacks, apart from that Luton Town comeback the previous season. I think at the time we were, I think we did a cherry picking episode after this game called the Comeback Kings, where we looked at all our Premier League comebacks from over the years, and this was also in that episode. But an absolutely insane game was held at Goodison Park on the last day of August. A poor performance from the Cherries, which we were poor. I think for the first sort of 82 minutes of the game, I think we weren't really going at all. We were 2-0 down just before the hour mark. Andoni must have felt frustrated at the performance and changed things up after 65 and 66 minutes, making 3 changes and another change after 77 minutes. And I think this was a game, if I remember rightly, where the changes were very key. From out of nowhere, the Cherries were playing on the front foot going into the last 10 minutes plus injury time. Semenyo pulled one back in the 87th minute. The Goodison faithful groaned as they had seen this happen previously, and into stoppage time, Lewis Cook, who I don't think scores many headers. I know he doesn't score many goals, but I'm sure he scores more with his feet than he does with his head. Headed an equaliser before Sinistera rounded off an unlikely comeback in the 96th minute. And if this is Andoni's chaotic football, then at the time it was a case of bring it on. Guys, I mean, I do remember this one very, very well. Like I say, it's one of those games, I think, at 2-0 on the hour mark, you were kind of thinking, how long is this going to go on for?
Yeah.
For then Andoni to show his strengths in how he can adapt to then, change a game and turn it upside down. Ollie, your memories on this one, this epic?
It's 86 minutes in, wasn't it? 86 minutes. That's all I remember. I just remember that number. And again, just the most turbulent start to the season, and you have these ups and downs, and you think you produce these fantastic games, and the appearances that some of the players and the games that they have during these games, and you really see those characters come out and affect the squad. And yeah, it's just another, for me, a bit of a pivotal turning point. I'm not sure if you remember, but a couple of months down the line, around mid-October, there was a bit of a concern because we'd only won, I think, 1 game in 7 league games at that point. And there was some question on Andoni, and Bill Foley came out and said it publicly backed him. He said we hired him for a project, not for panic. And I think this is one of the games that really gave that effect. As Malcolm knows, I get the most excited about our second half, and I still do to this day. And that's one of the games that proves this kind of thing. Yeah, just unreal.
Yeah. Malcolm. Well, I mean, this is, I think where Andoni really showed the strengths of, how he knew his squad and what players could, come on and make a real impact.
Yes, certainly. Surprisingly, when you look at the timing of the subs, okay, just after the hour brings on two, and then 10 minutes later another one. Obviously, he saw something within that 10-minute period that made him say, "I need to do something else." And so to make another change, but throw something else into the equation. Everton did take their best player off, which sort of surprised me. I've forgotten the name now. Undiai or
they're number 10.
Yeah,
that's right. For Decoro, isn't it? Yeah,
he was having a really decent game in the middle of the park there, and just keeping things ticking over for them, and they had no reason to sort of panic or anything. But Everton went through a phase where they concede a goal and they just collapse. Whether it's a head thing mentally or no idea. But you just did not see that coming. And I thought, okay, well done, Semenyo. We got a consolation here. But then the lads just kept going. And it was wow, wasn't it? It really was a wow moment, when Cookie got the equaliser and think, got out of jail here, we got a point.
Yeah.
And then up pops Sinisterra at the back post, to seal it. Just absolutely unbelievable. And being fair and being honest, we didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve 3 points that day because we were poor. We were really, really poor. And I think if they'd managed to draw, they said, well, that's okay, because you fought the last sort of 25 minutes or so, you've earned it. But to get a winner, obviously you take it. But just, that's what football's about, isn't it? And that's why we love it so much, because it brings up little stories like this sort of fairy tale games. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at another two games briefly. Two real epic wins as well. Obviously, in the October, we beat Arsenal 2-0 at home. That wonderful set-piece move, which finished in the 70th minute for then Clivett to convert the penalty in the 79th minute. And then, obviously, City getting our first 3 points over City, with Semenyo scoring early in that one within the 9th minute. And then Evan Nilsson finishing the scoring for the Cherries in the 64th. And I think it was City got a consolation goal, I think, in that one, if I remember rightly. But guys, this was when really, I think for me, when, it was kind of like, what, we're going to achieve better than last season. Wasn't necessarily, going a bit crazy at the time. I know a lot of people were about, Europe and stuff like that. But, this was where, I thought, we've got a chance now of definitely being into that top 10. What was your kind of thoughts on the season at that stage? I know a lot of people don't look at the season before January, December, Christmas time. I know that. But, I mean, this was the point where I thought, we could really build on this now and have a really good season. I mean, Ollie, do you want to go first on that one?
I think, again, I come back to pivotal turning points in the season. I think it was at this stage that we really started to turn heads in Europe, and people started to notice us, and we became that team that people didn't really want to play and couldn't guess or expect or strategize against. I think it became really difficult for people to play against Bournemouth last season. And because of that, it's almost set a precedence for this season. Because of how the gameplay in football changed, because of how you saw a smaller team come in and dominate teams like this. And I mean, these weren't the only ones. There was another one in December, wasn't there? There was, and they continued throughout the whole season. I I think at this point, I was just very happy with what was happening. I wasn't necessarily looking at the table. I wasn't necessarily looking at our position. I was just really happy with what was going on. Yeah,
enjoying the ride, as I say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Malcolm, I suppose similar thoughts from yourself.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, well impressive with the Arsenal game. Like you mentioned, superb set piece for Christie's goal. And then finally to beat Man City. Yeah. 2 assists from Kirkes, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Yes, I take your point of the E word, which I was never part of. I said no, this season, so like last season, it's too early. I was always thoughtful that a top 10 finish would be very doable. It's not a question of, okay, just because we beat Arsenal, just because we beat City, but then you have to think, okay, on their day, they can give anybody a game, and it doesn't matter what the opposition is or who they are. Yeah, go for top 10 and just see where it takes us. And like you said, it was a good time then to be a Cherries fan.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoying the ride. And let's just see what the season brings us. But obviously, we'll come on to that in a minute. So, yeah, it was very, very rewarding. Very proud to be a Cherries fan. Gives you a spring in your step as well, doesn't it? Gives you a lift to be going up against these big clubs and actually beating them. So, yeah, wow, what moments. Very enjoyable.
Right, so the fun continued. This season will show the fans what Andoni and his coaching staff were all about. So there are no easy games in the Premier League, and every point must be earned. With 3 defeats in the following 4 games and only a home win against Southampton. Obviously, this is a little bit before what we've just covered off. They followed 3 very tough fixtures: a brilliant home win against Arsenal, which we just touched on, followed by a dramatic late equaliser by Evan Nilsson at Villa Park. I do remember that one. I think he came off the bench as a substitute. Next up was the mighty Manchester City, which we've just touched on in a little bit more detail. And goals from Semenyo and Evan Nilsson put the Cherries 2 up before a late reply from the citizens gave them hope of salvaging something from the game. Maybe on another day, the gods might have been against us, but we hung on and claimed our first ever victory against City. And Andoni spoke in his pre-match press conference about playing against Pep. Pep's teams play many different ways, and I have to set up what I think he will do. He continued by saying, after a few minutes, I realised he is playing a different system, so I have to change my players to perform against another system. So could the media suddenly sit up and take notice of Bournemouth? Well, maybe so. But the 2 defeats in the following 2 games, they probably thought we just a puff of wind, which does happen from time to time. So we got to November, and we had some fantastic results in November as well, didn't we? Let's bring the results up very quickly for November. So the November period ended actually with the Wolverhampton win, where Kluivert bagged his hat-trick of penalties. And then we had the win against Tottenham in December, where a certain Dino made his first sort of real impact. Ipswich away, we battled there. I don't think it was a great performance, but we managed to grind a win out before the draw at home. And as you can see, this was our period of our unbeaten run. I think it was 11 games, wasn't it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Yeah, so right up until the 25th of January. So, amongst them, we had the 0-0 draw with Palace after the epic win at Old Trafford. Fulham, another draw, 2-2. And then we started the year with a 1-0 win over Everton, which I think might have been Sean Dyche's last match in charge of Everton. I might be wrong. A good draw at Chelsea. It was it? Yeah, cheers for that. And then we had those 2 fantastic games going up to Newcastle and destroying them 4-1. Another hat-trick from Mr. Cliver. And then obviously picking Forest apart 5-0. Guys, we just take a look back at some of these games. Dino comes in for a certain Mr. Senesi. And I honestly think, and I don't know whether you guys think similar here, I think maybe if Senesi never got injured when he did, it might have actually been Senesi that might have got a big move, because at the time I thought Senesi was playing some excellent football. I think he's playing some of his best football again in the current season. But this man really took his opportunity with both hands, and we saw the first glimpses of a very young player with a very, very mature head on his shoulders. I mean, initial thoughts of when Dino come in. Malcolm, if you want to go first.
Yeah, it was. Look at this young man, like you said, absolutely almost flawless, very confident. It would take a few games for us to see exactly how good he was, but when he came in, he took his opportunity with both hands. Super pairing at the back with Sabani, which obviously helped because they created a wonderful partnership at the back. Yeah, kudos to them both. But Dino, he just never looked flustered, did he?
No.
He really, it was just so composed on the ball. There was no panic or anything. He could find a pass out the back. Just knock it around like a knockabout, basically. Obviously, strength in the air, and then coming in, scoring a couple of goals as well. Wonderful.
Yeah,
he was really, really amazing. Unfortunately, too short-lived as a Bournemouth player. But wow, what a young man. And certainly an ex-Cherry that I'll certainly be keeping my eyes on.
Yeah.
Obviously that now he's in Madrid. And in the Spanish squad. You can't ask for more, can you? The biggest club in the world and one of the top nations in Europe. Yeah. Good luck to him. Good luck to him, really.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So pleased that he wore a Cherry shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ollie, if I could just bring your attention to the Manchester United game. Do ignore the date on the screen, guys. It's actually the 22nd of December, not the 2nd of November. So that's I slapped my wrist there. Again, to go up to Old Trafford 2 years in a row and beat them 3-0 convincingly. Massive achievement by ourselves. But again, that man Dino pops up with a goal. I mean, I remember watching it and thinking at this point, me personally, I was just like, wow. I mean, how far can this guy go? He's come in, he's been solid at the back. He scored a couple of goals, like Malcolm said. He's popped up a couple of goals. I mean, for me, by this time, from looking at Dino, and we'll look at the game as well. I'll get your opinion on the game. But I mean, at this time, I started to think, wow, we've got something, major on our hands here with this one.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And obviously, the first away win at Old Trafford, I remember because I was there. It was fantastic. So this was another one to add to the book. You're absolutely right. There's a couple of things I want to mention if I'm able to break it down. And I think that there was a super big shift in how we played football. To be completely honest, Iraola's identity came out in those couple of games that you were discussing there. That period of time where we had 11 unbeaten after our 7 no wins away or whatever it was, and you really started to see Iraola get his grasp over the team and an understanding, right? He came into his hole. And that, I think, allowed players like Dino, like Zabanye, fullbacks that were pushed high, held into shape. We almost went from a 4-2-3 with a one centre forward into a 4-4-2 in a press. We became the top 5 of the most aggressive counter press teams with pressures in the final third. Kluivert, Semenyo, the transitions between both of those players were huge during these periods of time. They scored in a number of games, including the one that you're talking about, as well as Dino. I think that was a Kluivert penalty and a Semenyo goal in 80-plus minute or whatever it was. Just fantastic. And this is where you can now start to see, and I'm going to bring it back to my word of the night, and it's the pivotal turning point. You could just see it all just slowly start to mold together. I think this is where we started to scare teams. There was no doubt about it. When we're beating City's 33 unbeaten games or something ridiculous, whatever their historic number was, and we beat that. We ended that. And all of a sudden, we're winning at Arsenal, winning at home to Arsenal, beating United away. The Fulham game was a tough one, 2-2. Yeah. But then again, as you said, moving into the Chelsea game, the Newcastle game, fantastic. Just fantastic. Yeah. Utterly brilliant. I think, again, just a huge turning point for us as fans to be like, wow, this is working. It's actually working. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, what we didn't see coming at the time, in the busiest time of the season between the end of November until almost the end of January, the Cherries broke a new record, going 11 games undefeated with 7 wins and 4 draws. What makes this run even more incredible was the amount of injuries we were accumulating. So, we're going to talk more about the youth that came into the side on the bench and things like that a little bit later. So at one point we only had 12 fit first team players, and it must be acknowledged the fine work by Andoni, the coaching staff and the players to achieve this record. Some memorable performances. We've just looked at a couple. Now we're going to look at a couple more as well. It started with the 2-4 away win at Wolverhampton. The game produced another record with Justin Kluivert netting a hat-trick of penalties, a second successive 3-0 win away in Manchester United, which we just touched on, was included, as well as getting the double over Everton, 1-0 win at home. Games 10 and 11 were undoubtedly the highlight, which will live long in the memory of every Cherry fan. An unbelievable 4-1 win at Newcastle, which we'll look in more detail in a second. And it's definitely the pick of the bunch. This game was described by most followers as the complete performance ever seen by a Bournemouth team, which I would totally agree with. Nottingham Forest were the next side we faced at the Vitality on the 23rd of January. Another team that were at the time pretty much flying high and overachieving. The form of both teams going into this game made it an exciting prospect. I remember thinking it would be good if we get a draw on this one, and we ended up beating them 5-0. And yeah, as we were saying at the time, very happy days indeed. Guys, let's take a quick look at these two games. Now, for me, I remember watching this one down the local with my dad and my brother and a few friends. To say this was a complete performance is probably the best way to sum it up, really. I think, and what really stands out for me in this game was that was it like a 45 yard run that Kirkes did up the flank?
Right. Yeah.
Further than that.
Was it further than that? Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, just what a run! I mean, and then the ball he put in the box as well. At the end of it, I think the complete performance. I think everybody played well on this day. I mean, I don't think there was anybody. Yes, Clivert will always steal the plaudits because obviously he banged in a hat-trick again. But, for me, I don't think there was a single poor performance on the pitch. I mean, let's have a game each. Who wants to take the Newcastle game? Who wants to take the Forest game? I'll let you two fight it out between you.
Up to you, Mal.
I'll take the first one, mate.
Go for it.
Happy days.
It absolutely blew me away. I was buzzing. Obviously, the first goal, 6 minutes. You see the high press from Andoni, the tactics, and Bournemouth basically forced errors all over the field against Newcastle. Okay, they got one back as an equaliser, but it didn't change our plan. It didn't change the way we wanted to play. We kept at it, and then obviously going 2-1 up just before the break was rather nice. And they just kept going and going. And to have a top striker in Isak, what Newcastle had at the time, I can't even recall if he actually had a shot on target during the whole game. And bearing in mind their midfield, and I mean, it is, quite an achievement against such a very strong and physical midfield that Newcastle had. They couldn't cope with us on the day, and it was absolutely amazing. It was breathtaking. The penalty, obviously, but as Matt pointed out, in the 96th minute, and Kirkis was just strolling from the Bournemouth penalty area. I think the assist was from Clivert, wasn't he? He passed the ball across because he saw Kirkis make a run.
Yeah.
So you're talking just outside his own penalty area, and he made this sprint, and I thought, what the hell is he doing? It's game over. It's 3-1, but he didn't want to stop. They wanted to keep going, and it just shows how fit they are, the mentality they've got to just keep going and going and going. And then obviously, he finished it off by actually whacking it in the net. Absolutely amazing. I've actually got that recorded, that game, and I've also watched it back a couple of times since. Mm-hmm. Because it was just so brilliant, basically. I do have quite a lot of football in my box. Sorry, carry on.
If you can watch that record, if you can send that recording over, mate, I'd like to watch that game back fully. That'd be amazing. What game?
I'll see if I can dig it out. I'm not sure if I can do it from my box. There must be a way of doing it, but absolutely phenomenal.
Technical question there, which I don't think Malcolm would like, but I'm sure there's a way of doing it. I'm sure you better work it out between you.
We'll sort something out. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Ollie, the Forest game for me, we just picked them apart. But what was your initial, thoughts on it? Again, another hat trick as well. The hat tricks we were banging out this season was immense.
Yeah. Yeah, and how can you not be excited after the Newcastle game 7 days later? Let's bear in mind. And obviously also entirely daunting because of how Nottingham Forest were doing at the time. I think second in the league. Not looking forward to the game, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, agree.
However, when you look back at the stats that I just pulled up now, they had 17 shots and 3 on target. Okay, we had 14 shots and 10 on target. I remember the game as it was, but if I didn't see the game and I was looking at the paper results there in the stats, we dominated. We were in their face. We were constantly pushing and pressing and aggressive. And yeah, what more can you ask? And again, this just comes on from the back end of last year. How we starting to see this change now? How we're starting to see this pattern of aggression in games that we never used to have. Malcolm hit the nail on the head. We would have stopped at 3-1. Don't get me wrong, I love Eddie Howe more than the next man, but if we'd have been 3-1, we'd have made changes to make it more defensive, we'd have slowed the pace down of the game, we'd have made it more comfortable. That's it. And that's what I think most managers would have done. Not us. We were gunning. We were still gunning in the Newcastle game, gunning in the Forest game. We are keen for goals. The hunger has come from somewhere, and you can see it coming out in those games.
Yeah, no, nice way to summarise that up, I think. Very nicely done. But that's just quickly to look over the fixtures again. That was the run-in. That was the undefeated 11 in a row. Obviously, like we said, started in November, went right through to the end of January. But let's just take a look at managing with limitations. Probably the most significant part of the season followed the last defeat when Andoni was starting to have fewer options on the bench due to injuries. But soon more were to follow in the coming weeks. A couple of youngsters were now assigned a place on the bench in order to make up the numbers. It is a brave decision to make and to put trust in untried players at Premier League level. But when the needs must, Andoni has the belief that they will not let him or the team down. In his pre-match press conference before the Newcastle game, Andoni said the choice of the starting 11 was very easy given the number of injuries. He praised the players for having the right mentality to keep playing even though they could have made excuses to have less minutes. Andoni was well aware of the form of the Newcastle team on a run of 9 unbeaten prior to kickoff. So, I mean, a big shout out here to Andoni. Obviously, masses of injuries during that run of games, but put trust in the youth, which I think his philosophy, part of his philosophy, is about youth and developing players for the first team, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just say, Bill. One of Bill Foley's taglines literally is "youth and value growth." That's one of his ethos. It's literally what the whole plan has been built upon. Yeah,
massively. And the player pictured here, young Winterburn. He's now out on loan at Barnet, and I hope he's doing pretty well. I haven't actually kept an eye on him, but he actually played some decent football for us last season at Premier League level. So, I mean, this is just credit to Andoni, to bring these players in. But not only just, it's easy to bring a player in, you can just bring a player in, but to, put your trust in those players to get minutes during those games, like many of them did, shows probably, a real quality in Andoni on how he can bring players on. Do you think that's a case, Malcolm?
I think you've also got to give a big shout out to the academy setup as well. For actually allowing these players to go out and express themselves. And obviously they must be training at some point with the first team in order to gel. So if they've got the ability, then they'll throw them in there to see what they're about. But great, why not? And the lads didn't disappoint. It wasn't only Winterburn, there were others as well that came off the bench. Okay, it was only a few minutes, but nevertheless, they were part of the first team setup, part of the squad. And it must have been a really good time for all of them, just to experience being around the first team, to see what could possibly be the next move, the next step for them, maybe even step up into the first team. Who knows? But yes, brave, but his hand was forced a little bit, wasn't it? Obviously, because of the amount of injuries they had. But thank goodness, the whole club and the setup allows this to happen. They've got a plan B. And I'm sure, I hope it doesn't happen that we have the injury problems of last season. But should it happen, there will be players that can actually step up. Okay, we've got the added issue. We can call loan players back this time, perhaps. But no, it was brave, but it was very, very clever from the whole club, from the whole setup, bringing these youngsters on and having the belief and trust in them, which is, it's the Bournemouth way, isn't it?
Yeah. No, totally agree. Ollie, looks like you've been typing away there. You've done a bit of research. You're going to hit us with an inspirational moment here?
Not quite, no. I was just trying to figure out who the other standout player was for me out of the youths, and it was Remy Rees-Dottin. So it was Ben Winterburn and Remy Rees-Dottin. They were the two that really stood out in a couple of Premier League games and cup games. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure I got the name right and didn't say someone completely random. But yeah. I think I'll back up everything that you're saying, and it comes back to the fact that this is all tactical, right?
I think he's going to have to go downstairs again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We got to the point of all tactical. So I don't know if you want to start your piece again, and I'll just edit it in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I think it's important to understand that we come back to the 5-year goal. There is a plan here, and all of these youth appearances, money invested into the youth academy, going for Cat 1, the purchase of the stadium, which will come to eventually in April of this year, at the end of this episode, I'm sure. There's a number of things that really kind of put all of this into a package, and I think these young players are part of that package. And I don't know how Bill Foley's done it, but he's just picked the perfect person to manage it all and orchestrate it and be the puppet master, and that's what Iraola's doing. And these young players, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Someone said it earlier about Poulsen. He's going to be a gold mine in 5 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And similar with some of these other players. We've brought on Ben Cannon-Doak. Give him his time at the moment now. We're doing the same. We're following the same process from year 1 to year 2 as we are now. And there's a point to this, So, yeah, I love the youth appearances last season were fantastic. Really fantastic.
Yeah, no, definitely. But unfortunately, the bubble does burst at some point, and sooner or later, it was almost certain to happen. The impressive run came to an end with a 2-0 home defeat to Liverpool, who at the time were champions-elect, weren't they? So, no disgrace there. Plenty of fans were still dreaming of making a European place, which was not meant to be. It must be said that the depth of the squad at the time may not have been ready for such dizzy heights. Maybe the target for such a prize might be in the following season if the squad can increase in size and have first-team players fill in most places on the bench. To add to the league fixtures, the Cherries were hoping for another prize in the FA Cup. At the end of March, Manchester City were the visitors for the quarter-final tie, which is only the 3rd time in our history that we've made that round of the FA Cup, and a 2-1 defeat for the Cherries, and we exited the competition. League games came and went, with the last 15 games seeing us win 4, draw 4, and 7 defeats in the pick of the bunch. Has to be the 2-1 away win at Arsenal at the beginning of May. And that's the remaining fixtures towards the end of the season there. And we can see the difference between the start of the season and the mid part of the season, over Christmas until the end of January, where results were steady, quite consistent. But unfortunately, guys, it wasn't to be, and there are some decent results there. I mean, the 2-2 draw away at Tottenham Hotspur, good point to get, especially on the back of a couple of defeats. To go to Tottenham and get a point shows some real character. Tottenham didn't have a great season, but even so, 3-1 win at Southampton. You would expect to win at Southampton with how poor they were. But yeah, really the only standout game there, as in a real give me the wow factor was that 2-1 away win at Arsenal. But I mean, can't be disheartened by this, really, can we? I mean, okay, we had a fantastic start, broken many records, which we're just going to talk about in the next segment. But Europe wasn't to be. I think, like it said in that last little segment there, maybe the depth wasn't there anyway if we were to achieve it. But all in all, we couldn't really be disheartened, could we?
No,
absolutely not.
No. I think first things first to consider is, as you again rightly pointed out, we had it wasn't a struggle to pick who was going to go on the pitch with all the injuries. We've come into this second part of the season. We are dilapidated. We're tired. We're fatigued. And I read a stat earlier, and it was 11 points lost from winning positions in the second half of the season. I think that says it all. That says all. Yeah. That's literally hits the nail on the head. Is we've fought it out for the back end of that first half, and we've come into this second half of the season winning games, still getting our points where it mattered, and almost gaining our comfortability for the middle section of the table, the top half finish. We were always heading in that direction. So I don't think there was too much stress and pressure behind the scenes, but yeah, we were due to struggle. We were really due to struggle with the run that we had.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you echo those thoughts, Mal?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't be disappointed. I suppose the majority of the fans singing, going on a European tour, they'll be the ones that would have been disappointed mostly. But you've got to look at the season from game one to the last. What have we achieved? What performances have we seen? You're always going to have a mixed bag. You're going to have your good, bad, and ugly. Every club has them. But wow, new points record, equal highest place, and even the goal difference, from the first season to this season, it's all positives. So we were going in the right direction and moving upwards, and yeah, small steps. It's exactly what Bill wants, and he said, we're not going to run. We'll take one step at a time. And as Ollie alluded to, it's not just about the first team; it's about the whole club and everything that's gone on around it. Obviously, we will come onto that at a later point. So, but yeah, absolutely brilliant season. Absolutely, Yeah. I'm very proud to wear the badge, of course.
Yeah, no, definitely. Nice way to finish your little speech there, Malcolm. Lovely. Very proud to wear the badge. But let's take a quick look at the records that we broke. So along with all the hat tricks and all the great goals on the pitch, we broke several records. So the highest Premier League points total was a new record for that season, which was 56 points. Previous best was 46 during the 2016-17 season under Eddie Howe. And that was achieved after a 3-0 win over Brighton late that season. Most wins in a Premier League season. Bournemouth won 17 matches.
Wow.
Suppressing their
wow.
best of 17. Yes. Yeah, definitely. That definitely is the wow factor, isn't it? Definitely. Most goals scored in a Premier League season. So the Cherries scored 60 plus goals, setting a new attacking benchmark for the club. And the longest unbeaten run. And as we discussed, we went 11 games unbeaten mid-season, including wins over Villa, Fulham, and West Ham. So that's a summary there, guys, of some of the records that we broke that season. Again, really, some fantastic ones there. Obviously, the one that stands out is the 56 points for myself. I think that was a great achievement. But then again, you look at the goals and the matches we've won. I think this just shows again, like I say, and I think we'll probably discuss this a bit more on part 3, is the progression side of things and how we built on, last season and how everything is developing into this, vision. But yeah, guys, just share, a few thoughts on some of the record breaking.
Well, hats off, mate.
Hats off.
It was. I mean, you obviously heard my voice in the middle there without seeing the fans saying the wow, but just wow. Like as a Bournemouth fan who's been a Bournemouth fan for less time than you guys have, it's just insane. It really, really is to be competing with this level of team, to be turning this many heads, to have this kind of Premier League stability after breaking all these barriers, dude, it's so awesome. It's such an exciting time to be a part of the club. Yeah, and as Malcolm said, just super proud to wear the badge. And obviously, as you can see behind me, the accessories are building up, with the badge on. So yeah, just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, you'll have more accessories behind you than me soon. Malcolm.
Yeah, what can I say? I have been a Cherries fan a lot longer than you, Ollie. Think back to the days when we used to hop on cozy coaches and go down to Torquay and places like that. It was like third and fourth division, and to be able to actually live through a season like last season. I mean, this previous one was good. It's not knocking any of it, but what they produced last season, it was just so unbelievable. But the quality of football, this Andoli brand which come to the fore, it gives you that buzz, it gives you that excitement. You just can't wait for kickoff for the next game. Okay, there were some poor performances thrown in, but that's going to happen. But the anticipation for like the next kickoff, it never used to have that. It is amazing. It really is amazing. And I'm not going to talk about this season. No point. But looking back, that will stay long in the memory. Some of the performances we put out there, not necessarily during that run, that 11-game unbeaten run, but also, other games that popped up and I think, oh, this is nice, this is good. And as Matt pointed out, doing the double over Arsenal. Now, who would have believed that?
Yeah.
Thinking, wow. And actually, it was a treble over Everton, wasn't it? Because we beat them in the FA Cup as well. So,
yeah, you're right.
But just unbelievable. And like I said, it does make you feel proud. You've been driven by this ecstasy of following your club, because it's in your blood, and Darren says it quite often, doesn't he? He's got Cherry in his blood, and he's right that you follow them and you're willing them to succeed, but to have all these pieces in place now to make that possible, which has been building. Obviously, it's taken years to do it, but now we've got to the point where it's saying, right, this is what we want. Bring it on. Let's have some more. Wonderful. But as I mentioned, the number of goals that we scored, which was an absolutely amazing feat, and the fact that we've increased our goal difference from the previous season, little things like that, little stats like that, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I can't add any more.
Well, let's conclude this episode, because obviously we will briefly discuss what part 3 will be about. But following on from the first season, Andoni certainly caught the attention of the football world with his chaotic brand of football and his tactical know-how. Most fans of many generations have seen bad times and games that were not even worth the entrance money, let alone following them on the road back in the day. But after Eddie Howe's era, many could be excused for thinking we had already seen the best. We finished the season in 9th with an impressive new points tally, a record goal difference of plus 12, an improvement of 25 on the previous season, an incredible achievement. Throughout the season, Andoni has shown how wonderful football can be. His changes during games, whether tactical or with substitutions, being a better understanding of how he works. The starting 11 may not always be the fans' choice, but Andoni will use this to his advantage and have impact players ready to help or change games later on. The excitement of the 25-26 season, which we're now well underway with, is highly anticipated, and we're grateful to have Andoni and his staff working so hard to maybe make more dreams come true. And in Andoni we trust. So, guys, I think that sums up this episode pretty well. So basically, that's us taking a look back over Andoni's second season. Our next part, we should be looking at more of the tactical side of Andoni, and his philosophy, and also looking into the players that have been developed and players that have moved on. So the next part will be more in depth. We'll have a little look at up to date, but it will mainly be, like I say, looking at it from a tactical aspect in more ways. So just to say to both you guys, thank you for both joining me again on this episode. You'll both be back for episode 3, which will be out shortly. So if you're watching this one and you haven't checked out part 1, do check out part 1, and part 3 will be out within the next few weeks. But all that's left to say from Ollie and Malcolm is probably up the cherries.
Oh, Cherries. Yeah.
The Cherries. Bye.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.